things real quick this morning. And out of Galatians chapter 3 and verse 1, we want to talk about being bewitched. I want to show you the difference in there are two types of being bewitched in the Bible. And since Apostle Jacob said she was going to try to get us on the Word Network, I'll go ahead and I'll act like I have been trained, and I will not necessarily operate from the hood like I do lots of times. I'll go ahead and I'll do it right. We'll use proper English, and I'll say things the way they ought to be said. So don't think I'm trying to be somebody I'm not. But you need to put your best foot forward. See, because no offense, but all black people speak two languages. We speak one English out in public and another one when we get home. And the one we speak at home is not it's not the pretty one. And that's the one that the children hear. And because the teachers in school don't speak that language, our children pay no attention to them. Because our children are programmed they live with black parents. And one of the things that we just don't want to admit, folks, is that there are differences in people, and we try to be like everybody else, and we are just not. Blacks are not like whites. Whites are not like blacks. We do some things similar, but we have different cultures, and we need to stop trying to make everybody fit this cookie cutter mold that America has set up. That's just not the way it is. We try to make everybody fit that thing, and it's just not the way it works. And we need to accept people based on the culture that they're from and know how to deal with them accordingly. And the same needs to happen for us. Now, we have a lot of failings in our schools because, when I came up, I had all black teachers. And just like Peterson, football player down there, they giving him a fit about disciplining his child. Well, his mother was on TV and she said, well, he disciplined his son the same way I disciplined him. That's what he knows. So why he didn't hurt the boy, didn't destroy him, and it's quite obvious his mama whipping him that way, and he's $1 million football player, didn't hurt him. But see, this thing is crazy now. Now, see, what you don't understand is America is going to take all the strength of the Bible away. The Bible will mean nothing in America in just a little bit. Because when they can take, my culture says, that's the way I discipline my child. So they tell me that what Jesus said in the Bible through Solomon, I can't do that anymore. And the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. He said, foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction drives it far from him. So what you want to have is a culture of children that's totally out of control, totally crazy, so you can drug them and do what you want to with them. You see, you better pay attention to this thing. You see, when they give children Ritalin, do you know that it causes them not to be able, the young males, not to be able to produce semen and testosterone? So you know what it does? It effeminizes these boys. And then they set it up to put them in jail to make that effeminization be a reality. But see, we think, well, that Dr. Doolittle knows what he's doing. Give him Ritalin. No, you need to see Dr. Doolittle. Let him take the Ritalin and see what happens to him. You see, we got some crazy stuff going on, folks. And my problem is, I love Jesus Christ, I love the church, but the church in America has to be reformed. Church in America does not deal with the issues that need to be dealt with. And see, I know you come to church because you want to hear nice little inspirational messages to make you feel good about yourself. Well, I'm going to show you some stuff here in just a minute that I help you understand why you don't need all those nice little inspirational messages. You need something to help you see the reality of where you live. And once you get into a place of reality, you can bring change. Let me tell you something. You can't even pray against things the way you ought to if you don't know what you're praying against and you don't know what forces are in place. You're praying and trying to move something, and that thing is saying, you really aren't talking to me because you don't know how many layers I have put up, and you praying against something that is not the reality. You're not getting to the root of this thing, so we spend a lot of time expending breath to no avail. And see, the Bible said that the time would come when people would not endure sound doctrine. They don't want to hear what is true, what is good, what is right. They're not going to endure it. Said they'll heap to themselves teachers having itching ears and be turned away from the truth. You see, there are many truths, but there's only one truth. There are many things that are true. 2 plus 2 is 4, but that is not the truth. That is a truth. But there is the truth, and God put that truth in the earth for the purpose of fully developing the human being. You see, that's why that truth is here. It's for no other reason. Animals don't operate like we do. If you got rid of all the animals on the planet, in 20 years, all the humans would be gone. You get rid of all the humans, in 20 years, all the animals will flourish. You got to understand, you can't make it without the animals. They can make it without you. So the truth was put here for you, to get you straight. They know how to make it without you. They can keep right on going, keep right on reproducing. They know how to find their food. They know how the whole order of this thing works. And they don't upset the order either. They follow the order, and everything flourishes. It's humans that destroy the order, and then things go haywire. So the animals can live without us. We can't live without them. So there are many truths in the planet, but only one truth. Many things on the planet, they are true. And it's absolutely true that the sun is in the sky. The moon is there. But that is not all of the truth. Those are pieces of this great big truth that is the living God. And we're not understanding who he is and what he wants from us. So what we've done, we have allowed many, many things to take us away from what it means to be fully human. And we operate in partial this, partial that, because we really don't know what it means to be a complete human. We think being complete is getting everything we want. That's being childish. That means that you haven't grown up yet. You're just a child. That's a childlike mentality. Here you are 40 years old and you still are having a fit because you can't have what you want. That's childlike behavior. Paul said, when I was a child, I spake as a child. One of my little grandsons, he'll grab something and go, mine. Well, see, because he can't, express himself fully in English yet, he gets it, mine. You do the same thing with a different level of expression. That's mine. Give me that. If I can't have what I want, then I'm going to be mad. I'm going to pout. You say the same thing. That's childlike behavior. Childlike behavior. Have no control of your thoughts, because to him, and see, to children, it's proven psychologically, children are selfish because they don't know that the world belongs to everybody. They don't know that yet. So for them, everything they see, mine, 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 mine. So when you're like that, you're a child. You're just in an adult body, but you're a child. You have a mind that is not fully developed. Something stopped developing at some point in your life. And you develop fully in the desire to want and to control and have, but you did not develop in your balance about what belongs to whom and what you're supposed to do with what you do and how you're supposed to work with others to see that everybody moves forward. Now, until you come to that place, you're really not mature. You're operating in a childlike behavior. Now, I did that for a long time while I was unregenerate, and things I should have been. You see, I thought just because I brought my money and a great portion of my money home, made sure my wife and children had somewhere to stay, bought food and paid the bills and gave her a car. I didn't think that other money I was wasting was of any concern. Going to the club and getting high and partying, I didn't think that was any concern. But now I look back and realize that was childish behavior because I should have been taking all of that I was spending on having fun, putting it into my family, and I would have had probably 10 times more for their inheritance than they'll get now if I expire. You see, I'd had a lot more to give them. And the Bible said a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. You see, my grandchildren and great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, they should be able to share in what I leave to my children because I have done what I should have done and did not waste. But the American psyche is get, take, take. That's how we think. And anything other than that, we do not want to hear it. We are not going to share. We may share enough to just make it look like we've done something, and then we think that we have justified ourselves by doing that little bit, and then we walk away like we've really, really done a good thing. And in reality, all you've done is given of your abundance. You had plenty, but you only gave out of that you could afford to get rid of. So you handed that, and yeah, you don't know what I've done. I've done so and so and so. Well, you really haven't given till it hurts. You didn't even give until you made sure you had some extra. So when you gave that $20, you wanted to make sure you had 40. You wouldn't give that 20 when it was your last 20. You weren't doing that. Now you gonna hold on to that. And you say, Lord, y'all just don't understand. I was almost broke. You better watch the language. See, listen to what folks say. I was almost broke. They didn't say I was flat broke and all I had was that 20 and I gave them that 20. You watch how people talk. They will tell you, I didn't hardly have nothing. Listen to the hardly. They're telling you they got something. You better watch the language. So when you're talking to me, you better be talking straight because I pick up on not only what you say and how you say it, I pick up on your spirit. I've been doing this a long time. And sometimes I don't even have to turn my spiritual barometer up. I just know when I see you, you're going to lie when I see you. I only have to turn it on. Well, there comes so and so and so. Let's get ready for as old folks say, a passel of lies. You're just going to lie. If you're talking, you're lying. They're just people like that, and I've come to understand how to deal with folk accordingly. And then there are folk, they are generally truthful, but then they'll hit these little spots, and I can tell by the Spirit, okay, that was, hit something right there. That wasn't quite right, because I felt this bump in the road. See, when you get to understand human nature, I don't even say anything to a lot of you guys, but y'all don't fool me. You know, because sometimes I just don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't talk to you enough, try to get you to understand, try to get you to be straight, and sometimes I'm like, okay, just go on. And I go home, and I just pray for you, because if I stand and talk to you, it's going to be 20 minutes of, you know. So I'd rather not have that conversation because I know what you're going to do. And you know, I just talk straight because this is where we live. All of you know the game people play. The spinner said, the game people play night or day, they're just not matching. What they should do, they keep me feeling blue. You see, sometimes I don't want to be blue, so I won't talk to you. I just go home. All right, y'all gonna tell that lie to somebody else. And the thing about it, most of you had parents who knew when you were lying. My mama did, my daddy did. And every time we told a lie, we get caught. And then sometimes Daddy wouldn't say anything. He just kind of look at you, and you knew he knows I'm lying. But he'd wait until you stack 3 or 4 of them up, then he'd get you. And then when he started whipping you, he'd whip you, and then he'd call out all those other lies you told back there. But see, we don't think we have any people like that around because y'all think y'all smart. You really do. You really think you're getting over playing those games, and you ought to quit. You ought to quit, but we think that we can do that and everything's going to be fine. Let me show you something out of Galatians. We're going to hit this stuff real quick. And Paul said in verse 1 of chapter 3, O foolish Galatians, who hath bewitched you that you should not obey the truth, before whose eyes Jesus Christ hath been evidently set forth, crucified among you. Now, bewitched in that scripture is the word baskeno, and it means to fascinate by false representation, to malign, means to spread a rumor or false report. Now, just what my wife was talking about as far as the show Black Jesus, I was just absolutely stunned when I saw it. I went online, and all I saw was 3 minutes of it, but that was enough to let me know this is definitely devilish, straight out of hell. But Jesus said, you can blaspheme me, you can blaspheme the Father, but you can't blaspheme the Holy Spirit and get away with it. So even though they're blaspheming Jesus, they still can be saved. And one of the things that the guys were saying, this guy playing Jesus, he was sitting there with a robe on, the long hand, he was smoking weed. And and the brother said, Jesus, man, you smoke up all the weed every time you come here. He said, man, don't you know I died for your MFing sins? I said, whoa. So, somebody is going to be bewitched by that and think that that's normal. And they said, well, Jesus, when you gonna do something about the community? He said, well, I got this garden thing that I'm going to be bringing into the community. Then all of a sudden, magically, everything changes, and there's weed growing everywhere. You see? So you see what they're doing, and that's to fascinate by false representation. Some people will believe that and think that, okay, that's the way Jesus is, so I can do whatever I want to. I can act any way I want to, and it's okay because everybody's laughing at it. So it must be all right, because when you get people to laugh, they tend to think that there's no real danger because laughter is going on. Well, see, when people are doing that, they're getting a false concept in their minds. Now, this is a bewitching through false concepts. And he said, who has bewitched you that you should not obey the truth? Who has given you a false representation of Jesus Christ to think that your behavior does no longer need to line up with his? He said, be like me. So we think that we can be like anything and anybody else, like this false one that's on the TV. We think we can be like whoever is leading or guiding us, and they may not be holy, and we say, well, it's okay. I remember years ago, there was a preacher, he told, a man asked him, said, preacher, said, what does it mean in the Bible to take care of the widows and the orphans? And he told him, he said, well, if those children are hungry, you need to try to make sure that you get a little something by there to help feed them. But now, if that widow, if she's got some sexual needs, you feed those children and you take care of her. Now, this is what the preacher told this gentleman. And sure enough, that was a false representation, and this man did it because that's what he wanted to do anyway. That's why he asked the question. So you see the thinking. So when people come and ask my wife and I stuff, and we tell them what the Bible said, all of a sudden they get tight. We don't see them. They kind of get away from us because they don't like what is true. They want us to give them what makes them comfortable. But the Bible lets us know that he'll bless us and our children to 1,000 generations because of righteousness. But see, people run from folk who will stand flat-footed and speak the truth in love. We just don't want to hear it. Now, if I would have backed off of some stuff and just left some stuff alone, oh, we'd have probably had 5,000 people in this church. And most of them would have been on their way to hell, but we'd have had them in here. Because we don't believe in doing what is right. Now, look at, I'm going to come back to Galatians chapter 1 in just a minute. But in Acts, let me show you a different kind of bewitching. Acts chapter 8, and we're going to look at verses 9 and verse 11. And it said, and there was a certain man called Simon, which before time in the same city used sorcery, and bewitched the people of Samaria, giving out that himself was some great one, to whom they all gave heed, from the least to the greatest, saying, this man is the great power of God. And to him they had regard because of a long time he had bewitched them with sorceries. Well, now, sorceries is the word pharmakeia, medication, magic, witchcraft, a druggist, a poisoner, a drug dealer. This man, and him being a sorcerer, and that word sorcerer there, sorceries, is the word magia, meaning he used magic. Now, what he did, he used magic to cast a spell. What was he doing? He had the ability, he had drugs involved in what he did. His whole little cult system, they had their worship services involving all kinds of drugs, because drugs didn't just come into existence in the last 100 years. They've been here from the beginning of time, and people knew how to use them. And this guy, they were using these drugs to get into another realm of the spirit. And what they did, and that word magia, sorcery, is where we get the word magic from. And what they were doing, they'd get in there and contact, through an altered state of consciousness, these demonic forces. And demon, in the, you go all the way back, the original, it means, it was called a dia minority. In other words, it was called a divine being, but it was a minor divine being. So that's how we got the word demon out of minor deity, minor demon. So they would contact these minor spirits. And see, the thing about these minor spirits, they didn't have the kind of conscience that we have. They had a will, but there were things that they just knew absolutely. They didn't know the other things that could come out of it. In other words, they may give you a basketball, but they don't understand when you as a human get through, now you know how to stuff it, you got behind the back pass. See, they don't know that. You generate that. So what they did, this guy had gotten into that realm, brought things back, and he cast spells on people. And then people's behavior started to manifest in certain ways that the demonic forces didn't know. Always remember this now. The demonic forces are not the only thing that drive you. They just present things to you. You create a lot of the other behavior. They're not making you do all that. You're under a spell. So you know, it's normal to go to work, take your money, come home, make sure your house taken care of, do the things you should do. But when you're under a spell, you will go do things with your money before you get it home. And see, that demonic force got you, just stop by the liquor house and get one drink. And by the time you get home, sometime Sunday night, you're broke. See? That's the behavior that comes out of the human. But the demonic force just pointed you to the liquor house. And see, always remember, the devil doesn't make you do everything. The devil just presents opportunity to you. And then you, through your human imagination, you see, the demons don't have imagination. You do. And they put things in your face and they see what you're going to do with it, because you are the one that has dominion over the earth. So when you get that thing and you start to work it, a lot of that stuff is you. That's why lots of times you trying to rebuke a behavior where you better rebuke the source. that brought you to the place where you operated in that behavior. Because the devil ain't making you do everything you think he is. A lot of your stuff is just coming out of you and your imagination, your human creativity. You see, that's where that comes from. And see, we need to understand how he bewitched them. And he bewitched them, and he only started out, well, listen, just let me have $1. And then as they became more bewitched and kept thinking, if I gave him $1, and he'd always make something happen for him behind that dollar. And then once they'd get that dollar, give that dollar, and then something good would happen, then they say, well, maybe if I give him 2, I'll get twice as much. You see, that was their own imagination. See how he put them under a spell? That's how that thing works. So you got to understand, the devil, he simply does what he does, but he is not the author and finisher of your faith. Only God is, and you cooperate with him by receiving. That's why God said, shun the very appearance of evil, because once it gets in, you are going to cooperate with it and make it something else. That's how it works. So we think, oh man, I tell you what, the devil is after me. Yeah, just to give you one little point. That's all he wants to do. And the rest of what you generate is what you did. That's all. Just you. So here this guy was. He was putting people under a spell. And they had gotten so enamored with this guy, they said, this man is the great power of God. So giving him that $1, something must have been happening. And then they gave him 5. Something must have been happening. But it was in their minds where they were trapped. And Paul was the one. There was a girl that had a spirit of divination. And she was walking around prophesying, saying, these men are the great power of God. And Paul said after several days it vexed his spirit. Then he told that thing to come out. And when it did, her masters got mad with Paul because their money couldn't be made. You see, all of this stuff about bewitchment is about your money when you get right down to it. It's about your money. It's about getting from you what rightfully belongs to you, because God has said, I put the earth in the hands of man. That means that men, humans, all of us are supposed to have a piece of the pie. That's right. You're supposed to be living without having to scrounge. But there are people like Simon up at the top who are controlling things, and they've got trillions, and then have a fit because you want to get a raise. They're ready to terminate you because you want to get a raise, and they've got trillions at the top. And I don't have time to go into, there's some things I want to show you about the folks at the top. They are not who you think they are. You see, we've got to go back. I've been giving you some stuff about Esau and Jacob. Well, there's some things you need to understand about Esau. Esau has a perpetual hatred for his brother, and Esau said, the time will come when he will throw off the yoke of Jacob, and he will get rid of the first dominion, but he will have the last dominion before Christ tells the church and gives the church the power to take over completely. So there's some things working that's a little different than what you think. And see, let me say this, and I mean no offense. All people who are white are not white, and all people who are black are not black. Jesus looks at DNA, not your skin color. That's what he looks at. Now see, we caught up in skin color, and it ain't got nothing to do with nothing. That's just a human invention, and we got lost in it because I studied enough history. That kind of thing didn't go on. People didn't hook up with you if your gods were not the same as theirs were. They cared nothing about your complexion. Nothing. That's an American invention. See, that didn't come from God, did not come from other nations. That came from America. When they said, when Nehemiah told them, said, put away your foreign wives, it had nothing to do with their color. It had to do with their gods. He told Israel, don't hook up with those people because they have the wrong gods. That's why he told Saul, when you go down, I want you to destroy Amalek. Amalek was, I want you to totally destroy him. Amalek was a grandson of Esau. And God said, Esau have I hated, Jacob have I loved. You see, these people had a whole different understanding about money and power than Jacob did. And if they had enough money and power, God would mean nothing to them. And they got way up at the top, and they're at the top now. So It even said that they will get so bad, they'll give you a smaller package, less product, and charge you more for it. And what they will do, they will squeeze you when you have no more to give. They'll keep squeezing. I mean, you're just barely